All right, good morning. So a new siman, Kuf Samach Aleph, Dine Chatziza Benetila. So the important siman, what for doing Netilas Yadayim, for washing your hands for bread in the morning, what is, or whenever you eat, what is considered a Chatziza. So it says the Mechaba, says the Shulchan Aruch, Tzarech lizohe mechatziza. One's got to be very careful of a Chatziza, which means a barrier, something which is on your hands, which is going to be is going to interpose between the water on your hands. You got to be very careful of a chatzitza. Anything which is considered a chatzitza, a barrier for tvila purposes, will be a chatzitza for netila purposes. Kagain, for example, you have dirt underneath the nail, which is not at the bottom of the nail, sort of the top of the nail, away from the flesh, or or dough underneath the nail. If a person made a challah or sort of made some bread, biscuits, whatever, if you've got some dough underneath the nail, afilu keneged habasa, even that which is keneged habasa, which normally for dirt you're less worried about, but when it comes to dough you are worried about, that would be a chatzitza. Or a bandage, that's also chatzitza. V'tit hayovein, v'tit hayetzrim, some sort of cement. If you're a builder, a carpenter, but if it's only a small amount where you're not makbid, ein lochash, you're not worried about that. Says the Ramah, the netila. That's why we're not worried when we wash Netilas Yadayim. We're not worried to actually sort of clean away any dirt which is under our nails, like we may do before, women do before they go to the mikvah. Because that's such a tiny amount, it's a miut she'ein makbid. It's a small amount which a person is generally not worried about. Ki ein makbidim al zen netila. We're not bothered about that for Netilas Yadayim. Avelim hoya makbid. But if you yourself are makbid, that you're worried your nails are dirty, then tzarech lenakran v'chein ikka, and that is indeed the correct. That is the main pshat. The Efsha says, finishes off the Ramah, shenagu lahakel b'chatzitzel in a netila, and it could be possible that we are noeg lahakel, to be lenient for chatzitza for netila purposes, ki yeshem she'ein shai chatzitza netila, because some are of the opinion that there is no concept of chatzitza for netila, but the ikka is that there is, and we have the same rules as tvila. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah. So the Mishnah Berurah begins with a hakdama. Sifkat and Aleph lizaher. Akdim lezeh hakdama katzara. Let me begin with a short intro. For who? The le'inyan tvila saguf kaimelon desorach lizaher shliach chatzitza. When it comes to tevila, a person is tomei and he wants to do be tovel in a mikvah, you got to be careful. There shouldn't be any chatzitza before you go into the mikvah. V'hainu shelo yeh shum davar medubak al haguf be'eis haTefila. Nothing should be stuck onto the body at the time of tevila. V'alidei zeh lo yeh oisa makom roel b'yas hamayim, because that will be an impediment that the water will not be able to touch the guf in that place. V'im hoye chatzitza lo also le tefila. And if there's a chatzitza there, then the tefila will not work. V'after min haTorah lo havi chatzitza elim kein havi chatzitza al roiv bos haguf. Min haTorah, the only chatzitza would be if it's on the majority of your body. Midrabanan, however, midrabanan also afilim haye chatzitza al miut haguf kazeira atu rabbi. That midrabanan, they say that even if there's a chatzitza on a miut, on a minority of your body, on part of it, that's also a chatzitza, a gezeira, because you might come to have a chatzitza on the majority of your body. But Chazal only made that rule of miut in a situation where it's going to bother you. But even though right now you may not be bothered about it, but the majority of people are. However, but something where people generally are not worried about it, then it's not going to be a chatzitza, unless it covers the entire body. Because if it's the majority, then even if you're not particularly bothered about it, but that would be asa. Well, then therefore, in other words, what he said, min haTorah chatzitza is only if it's the majority of your body. Midrabanan Chazal will geizer on a minority, kazeir otu rubai, but that's only if you're makbid on it. If you're not makbid on it and it's a miut, then they will never geizer. and that's why the little bit of dirt, perhaps under your nails and things like that, we're not worried about that for Netilas Yadayim. Well, in Netilas Yadayim, Gamkein, turning over the page, Shel Midrabanan, even though it is, we said before, Netilas Yadayim, of course, is a Drabanan, called the Tikkun Rabbanan, Kein Deraisa Tikkun. However, when they made this institution, they did it like the rules for Deraisa. Valkein, Im Yesh Chatziza al Roiv Hayad, if you therefore have a Chatziza on the majority of your hands, Tahainu al Roiv Mokam Netilah, on the majority of the place which is going to do Netilas Yadayim, also afilu ein derech bnei adam lahakbid alav. Then it's going to be also, even if people are not generally makbid about it. V'im hoya rak al miut hayad, but if it's just on a miut, a small part of the hand, ein also elim kein haderech lahakbid al zeh. It's only going to be problematic for Netilas Yadayim if people generally are makbid. So it's got to be the majority of the hands. It's got to be even on a miut. It's only going to be if the majority of people are going to be makbid on this. Va'atzah. Now, with this Hagdama, we're going to explain what the Shulchan Aruch means. When he says that you've got to be careful of a Chatziza for Netilas Yadayim purposes, you should remove any Chatziza before Netilas Yadayim. Anything which is a Chatziza, which people are generally makbid on to remove it. If, however, you wash your hands and then afterwards you found a Chatziza, bein al miut yad, bein al rov yad, whether it was a miut or a rov of your hands, talin lahakel shenishav achach, we can ascribe it to the possibility that it came about afterwards, after you wash your hands. But it's good just to check your hands before you do Netilas Yadayim to make sure there's no Chatziza. Okay. So then we said, what about soya shetachas hatziporin? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Cotton Base, Hainu zuamas hatzipornaim shederech likovetz sham. You've got some dirt collected under the nail, which is, that's just the way how it sometimes gathers there. If you look at note number 7, he says in the Sefer Machane Yisrael, he writes, shetachas hatziporin keneged abosa ein acheses, kiven shudova muad ein derech bnei adam lahakbid al zeh. The person can have a little bit of dirt underneath the nail, towards the bottom of the flesh, that you have to be worried about that. You can wash Netilas Yadayim. However, it says the Mishnah Berurah, avul tsoya mamish, but if it's proper dirt, afilu keneged habosa mistaber delei choshev netila emotza shenisha sham. If you've got proper dirt there, then that would be different. Okay, we said where is this true on the nail? Dafka sheloi keneged habosa. Kugoin imatziperin godel va'odef al bosa ha'etzba. So you've got longer nails, and it covers the flesh of the finger. And you've got some dirt underneath this nail part. Imagine you've got a longer nail, and you've got some dirt collected under the top part, under the nail part. People are worried about that. That's considered mos. It's considered objectionable, disgusting, and therefore it becomes a Chatziza. Therefore you've got to remove that before Netilah. Or sake, but when it comes to dough, we're more strict. People are worried, even if it's you've got dough which is neged the bossa, which is further down towards the finger. You don't even want that, so you'd wash your hands if you baked the cake or made a dough. You would wash your hands afterwards to remove any type of botzik, and therefore that's more prone to be a Chatziza. Here we're talking about just regular cases. There you go. That it's a good reason not to grow your nails too long, because otherwise it's likely to accumulate dirt, and that could be a Chatziza for Netilas Yadayim purposes. Okay, Uratia. So another example of a Chatziza is a bandage, a plaster, a band-aid or something like that. You put some sort of ointment underneath the material and you put it on your hand. So this is a ratia which you put on your flesh. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Cotton Hay. For after Mavula come Kuf Samach Basiv Yud, the Ein Sorach Little Klal Al Mokam Aratia. We said before that you don't need to take off a band-aid for Netilas Yadayim. Right, so do you or don't you? What's going on? because it's because you cannot wash in that part. Let's say one finger was damaged, and therefore it's as if you haven't got that finger. So the answer is the Mishnah Berurah Hosam de Leimari b'yesh lemaka u'lakach lo'chashina sheyosem makom haratzia v'yigav b'sar la'achilon. We're in a situation where you're not going to take off the band-aid, then you don't have to take it off, because we're not worried you're going to take it off and therefore touch food and with tomei hands to koivle because your finger hurts. Here you've got a very small pain, and therefore you might well take it off. You can take off the bandage as and when you please. And therefore the concern in this sif is that you may take the bandage off and touch the food. Therefore, you should take your bandage off before Netilas Yadayim and wash it without it. Yes, it's coming up. Yeah, it's coming up. We're talking about it's much coming up. Because we're worried that if on your hand will be a chatziza. Therefore, so if you've got a plaster on your hands, if it's there because it's and that's 90, I would say 9 out of 10 times you've got a plaster, a bandage, or some sort of thing on your hand, it's to protect you. You want it there. It's for protection, or it's for medical reasons, and therefore you do not have to take it off when you wash Netilas Yadayim, and just you don't have to even you can just avoid it. You can just wash your hands this time. Just pull that finger away and wash the rest of your hand, and that's good enough for Netilas Yadayim. However, a bandage which you take on and off the whole time, that you should take off for Netilas Yadayim. Okay, v'tit hayovein, says Mishnah Berurah Sif Kot involved, pirush tit habayros, which comes from pits and things like that. Tit hayotzrim, like builders, carpenters, things, shem nidbakim ma'od, they're like, imagine like cement and things like that. And it prevents water from penetrating underneath, afilu kashem lachim, even when the cement or whatever is wet. V'adin sham mine tit kashu yavesh, or dried dirt, v'nidbak v'bosa chitzim b'chazeh, all of those things are chatzizas, bein al gav hayad, bein tachas atzperim, whether it's on top of the hand, underneath the nails, afilu keneged abosa, im lo shah dovamut kol kach, she'im le adam lahakbid al zeh, de oz ein chitzim b'chol makom sheyinsu. Unless your mum is not worried about it, then it won't be a chatziza. And so too with dirt and things like that. Now, what if you're a builder? Yeah, and that's just the way, your hands are regularly dirty. You're a carpenter, then it's not going to be a chatzitza. If you've got a little bit of dirt, a little bit of cement on your hands, and that's your umnus, then you're less makpid about it. Unless it covers the majority of your hands. Sifkot and Zayin, we said, but Avol, we said, this is still going on the Mechaba. This is going on the beginning of the Sif. Generally, regarding Chatziza, if you've got a small Chatziza on a minority of your hand and you're not worried about it, you don't have to be worried about that for Netilas Yadayim purposes. And the opinion of the Torah is that where the majority of people are makbid, that if you individually are not makbid about it, then it's not chatzitza. That it's an objective standard, it's not a subjective one. In other words, if the majority of people are makbid about this, then this would be a chatzitza. Even if you personally don't care about it, then it would be a chatzitza. But miyutza sheina makbid, says Mishnah Berurah Sif Kot and Ches, v'im roiv hayad mechusa, if the majority of the hand is covered, then the roiv makom tila afal pi shein makbid chaytzes, then that will be a chatzitza. Hatit, says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Kot and Tes, hamogen avram perish to koi rak al shneged abosa, only the part which touches the flesh. V'afilu tit hayovon v'hayetzrim, mishum debeinu medina zein makbidim al zeh v'avikamil to sheina makbid. That's in these places we're not worried about these sort of dirt. But stuff which is not against the hand, this is on the nail part, which is not connected the flesh, which is sort of further up the nail, away from the hand. That would be considered that would be a chatzitza. And some people are generally making about that. Makbid hu mashma. Again, even if the majority of people are not makbid, so it comes out according to the second opinion above that it's a chum on both sides. If most people are not are makbid about it, but you're not, then you've got to do Netilas Yadayim. And if most people are not makbid and you are, then you've got to do Netilas Yadayim. On Mikal Mark, I'm telling you the page, near it, dahanu dafka betit hayotzim betit yovesh aval betit lach over offer shetachas atziperi. And if it's wet, then we're not worried. Can I get the boss to she'ein ba kol kach ein lahachmir of a pratzim lo im kol hayoyim ein dark lahak b'drak shmegin Netilas. And especially if all day you're not worried about it, only when you come to Netilas, you don't have to be worried about it now. Just very quickly, Yossi 19. You saw that. Hainu shemakbid rak machmas din Netilas Yadayim. Aval ish shedarke lahiri tabas sheyesh bo even tova. He's got a fancy ring and he takes it off. B'chol pam shenos and yodom misasik b'mayim. Whenever he touches water or whatever, he takes it off. Then we're going to see tomorrow, Mr. Shem, sheyesh lochush lasir mitam hat b'chatziza. Then you've got to take it off. But Mr. Shem, the ring, it's the next seafood we're going to come to tomorrow.
It's people, they're not market, right?
Well, it depends. We'll see. All the details about rings we'll talk about tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Okay.